Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show, and what we have for you today is another full wave of McFarlane Figures DC Multiverse Blackest Night. And I know of at least one viewer I have out there that is really going to be into this collection. Alright, now I have to admit, Blackest Night, while I am not a huge fan of Green Lantern, don't get me wrong, I like Green Lantern. Green Lantern's cool. I have some one-shots, I have some graphic novels, but I've never really collected the series. But when Blackest Night came out, oh, I love that. Sci-fi, horror, zombies, undead. It was fantastic. Now, this does not include Necron. Necron is also out. He is a mega fig. I have him on pre-order. I think he's sitting in my pile of loot. I just have to get him shipped. But Necron is on his way. This is just the first wave that includes Black Lantern Batman, Deathstorm, Black Lantern Superman, Kyle Rayner, and of course we have our huge collect-to-build Atrocitus, which I can't wait to see how big this dude actually is compared to the rest of the Lanterns. Alright, so what we have here is our standard Build-A-Figure McFarlane packaging, a little bit bigger than the normal box. You have your figure, you have his accessories, you have the Build-A-Figure pieces, you can see his card and his stand in the back, DC Multiverse and the name up front. On back, we have a great picture of Atrocitus, along with the cards for the rest of the wave, the collecting images for the rest of the wave. Love this Deathstorm right here. This is going to be so cool. And directions on how Atrocitus goes together. Arms, legs, torso, head, and shoulders. So, without further ado, let's just dive right into this and get into McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Blackest Night. Okay, we're going to start with Black Lantern Batman because, well, quite frankly to me, he's the, I don't want to say the most boring, but the least interesting of the series. So let's get him open and take a look at him. Alright, here he is, Black Lantern Batman out of his box, and putting the tape measure to him, we see that he is roughly 7 1/4 inches to the top of his bat ears. Now, bringing him up closer, we cannot help but look at that massive screaming maw going on. And normally, I prefer figures to have more of a neutral pose, a neutral face, not so much an action screaming face unless we're getting two heads with them, but it's zombie Batman. Of course, he's going to be screaming for your brains. But let's take a closer look at this and just look at the great work that was done on his maw, the rotted teeth. The teeth seem to are molded individually. His tongue, the discoloration of the tongue, the torn flesh around the jaws, the weathering, the missing, the pulled back lips showing the teeth. This is a great, ferocious looking zombie head for Bruce here. This is fantastic. And then with the cape flaring up and how sometimes it gets into those points and they're a little ragged. I don't know if it's supposed to be drooping like this or if it's supposed to be standing up and it just got damaged in packaging or something, but I kind of like how they're hanging at different angles. The bat ears stay upright. I also like how the cape and the gauntlets are blue and the main body is gray, sort of like a perversion of that classic bat costume, of the blue and gray bat costume. I really like that. And then we have the Black Lantern symbol on this broad bat symbol on his chest. And this whole thing looks great. Of course, we have the bunching of the cape and the swoop of the cape, the tattering of the cape at the bottom. Like, you can even see how it's frayed and torn down here. I think that looks fantastic. The gauntlets in the hands in these positions. This whole thing looks great. I mean, this just looks fantastic, I feel. And there is some texturing to the bodysuit, so it's not just a smooth plastic. You do have that texturing that McFarlane likes to put on his figures. You can see right in there. So everything just pops. Everything stands out. It has depth. It has character. It gets a little boring down in here. I would have liked to have seen some coloring of the belt, but honestly, I think in the series, and it's been a long time since I've read it, and I'm not even sure I have the series here right now, but I think that's what color the belt was. That, like, basically the whole bodysuit was gray, and just the boots, the cape, the cowl, and the gauntlets or this dark blue. But I really dig this. Now, getting into the articulation, he has some great unnatural tilt to his head, which is just what you need for a zombie. Okay, it'll do a full 360 like The Exorcist. He can look up, he can bury the chin and look down. The arms could do a full 360, but this cape does get in the way. But if you push them out like that, you can see that they will rotate all the way around. Even with the heavy cape, they can come up a little bit past 90. Has butterfly joint in the shoulder, bicep swivel, great travel on the double jointed elbows. His hands, wrists swivel, wrists pivot up and down, and then you can do this, you can do that, and then they'll go in and out. And these are very soft, rubbery hands. The hands and the gauntlets are both very rubbery so that they won't break. Now, when we get to the torso, I don't know what Todd is doing lately, but look, he can crunch forward. He can crunch way back, though you start to see some of the gapping right there. He does some really good travel at the waist. He has some tilt side to side at the waist, but then he also, at this ab, but then he also has a ball joint at the waist that he can go forward even more. He can go back even more. He gets even more tilt side to side. It doesn't oh no, it even twists. So mine was just a little stuck. And this part right here is a very soft rubber. So this peak doesn't really get in the way. It will move and fold out as you turn the waist if you need it to. And that also helps with the legs. Now when we get to the leg articulation, he has that hidden hip swivel and it's not very good on him. If I have any complaints about the articulation, it's this point right here. But his legs can come forward. His legs can go back. And with the trunks being that soft rubber, you can see that they'll come up and get out of the way. They will fold over for whenever the leg comes up. You can see that it folds back down. His legs will come out almost to 90. Double jointed knees with some really good travel. Forward facing pin for rock. Ankles rock back. Ankles rock forward. And then we have toe articulation. Our Blackest Night Batman doesn't come with any accessories, but he does come with his collector's card like all of the Multiverse figures do. You have a really nice image of Black Lantern Batman spitting out some blood right there. And on the back we have his bio. And wait a minute. As a child, Bruce Wayne watched as his parents were... Batman's parents are dead? Why didn't anybody tell me? Now, like all McFarlane figures, he comes with a display stand that has the DC logo tampoed on the front. And I have to admit, like, I know it's cost effective to just churn out all of these black stands with the DC logo tampoed on it. But I have to admit, when they come out in waves like this, it would be cool if, like, Blackest Night was etched across the bottom of the stand. Or like the Suicide Squad would have Suicide Squad etched across the bottom. The Dark Knight Returns. Like the series, when they come out in a series like this, what series they belong to. But that's just wishful thinking. And then finally, Black Lantern Batman comes with Atrocitus' arms. And these are some beefy arms, guys. These are some big, beefy arms. Atrocitus is going to be a big, big boy. All right, and next up we have Black Lantern Superman. And if you're not familiar with the Darkest Night storyline, it's important to note that this is not the Superman that most of us all know and love. This is actually the Superman of Earth 2. This is the Golden Age Superman. To explain how he died and how he became a Black Lantern, I would have to talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then I would have to talk about Infinite Crisis, and I would have to talk about Superboy Prime, and I just don't want to have to go through all of that. But trust me, this is the Superman of Earth 2. A kind of sorrowful end to the Golden Age Superman. At least I think it was his end. I don't know if he ever came back or not. I don't think he did. I think this was the end product. If I'm wrong, I'm sure someone will tell me. Let me know in the comments below. But I'm pretty sure this was the end of Golden Age Supes. So let's get him out of the box and let's see what's become of him. All right, here he is, Kal-El, not Kal-El, out of the box. And putting the tape measure to him, we can see that he is roughly 7 1/4 inches to the top of his head. Bringing him up closer, just like the Blackest Night Batman, we have an amazing, amazing face portrait for our Blackest Night Superman. Look at the emaciation, look at the cheeks, look at the skin just being ripped through, look at the sunken eyes with the burning red coming through, look at the gritted teeth. Everything about this is fantastic, and I think one of the reasons that I was really excited about the Blackest Night series is because stuff like this is right in Todd's wheelhouse. Stuff that looks like it could be at home right next to Spawn. Like, and I know we just got through all of those Dark Knight's Metal and Death Metal figures for like the past 2 years, but come on, that does not compare to something like this. Look at the emaciation on the skin. Just look at how thin, how in the body he actually is. Because if you're familiar with the Golden Age Superman and the way that they portrayed him in Crisis on Infinite Earths and Infinite Crisis, he's big, he's bulky, he's almost like the Kingdom Come Superman. And to see him just emaciated like this is heartbreaking, and it's fantastic. And I love the design, and I love the look of him. And we get this big silver S, and we have these peaks meeting in his around his torso right here, and of course the bodysuit has that McFarlane. Focus in. The bodysuit has that McFarlane texture to it, so it's not just a smooth sculpt. There actually is some texture, some character, some depth, and I love the way that like this black texturing plays with the lights. How you get these little micro reflections in the texturing right there. This whole thing is fantastic. I really, really dig the look of these Blackest Night figures. I can't wait to get to Deathstorm. He has this circlet going around his head. I honestly can't remember what that was from or if he had that in the comic. One thing that I wish they would have done is grade the temples of his hair a little bit, giving him some of those gray temples right there, because he did have those. Can't remember if he had them after the resurrection, but I do remember he had the gray temples in the Crisis storylines. And then coming down to the legs, what I like about this versus the Batman, hold on, let me grab him for a second, is that I feel like the silver does a better job of breaking up the black than the black did of breaking up the gray. And I think it also helps that with Superman, you have this silver ring right in the middle, and it kind of helps break everything up and just also ties everything together that, I don't know, around the waist, maybe it is just something as simple as that circle right there, but like it just looks like a more complete look. That's my opinion anyway. But then on the back, we also have this tattered cape. The cape in tatters. It's in 3 separate pieces. It's a very soft rubber. You're not going to be able to pose it. There's no wire or anything in it, but at the same time, it's not very heavy, that it's not weighing down our figure. That was me. That wasn't the figure. That it's not weighing down the figure when you're trying to stand him and pose him. See what I mean? Like, it looks good, but it's a light plastic, so there's not a whole lot of back weight to it. Now, bringing him up closer, and we're going to take a look at the articulation, that he can do some head tilt. He can get some tilt side to side, but it's not nearly as drastic or unnatural as Batman's was. He can do the full 360 spin. He can look up, which is good for a flying character. He can look down and bury the chin. The arms will do a full spin. He has a butterfly joint. Come up past 90. He has a bicep swivel. Double jointed elbows with some really good travel. And once again, just look at the emaciation, the leathering of this skin. Like, this is real zombie stuff right there. His wrists twist, and they pivot up and down. Or you can turn them, then you can do that. And then they'll go in and out. And he only comes with a pair of clenched fists, just like Batman only has those hands. Superman, Black Lantern Superman only has these clenched fists. Now he also has this ab cut right here, and just like with Batman, we're getting some much better articulation from McFarlane Toys, that he can crunch forward, he can crunch back once again, which is really good for a flying figure. He can twist at the ab, and he has side to side. Now, when we get down here, once again, we have that waist, that the waist will also twist. The waist will help with crunching way back. and with crunching way forward, and it's on a ball joint, so we get some side to side. We're really starting to get better articulation in the waist right here, and the waist articulation has always been my biggest hang-up with the articulation of the McFarlane figures, and it looks like he's starting to fix that problem. The legs have that hidden thigh swivel, or that hidden hip swivel. This works much better than the Batman figure we just had. His legs will come forward, but if you turn it, you can get it up further. Voila. His legs will go back. His legs will come up to the side, not quite to 90. There's a little bit of resistance right there. The trunks, once again, are a very soft rubber for the trunks, so that whenever you do bring the leg up, they kind of get out of the way so that they're not interfering with the articulation. But there is, as always, the issue that they might start to deform or rip. Double jointed knees with some really great travel. Ankles rock back, ankles rock forward, forward facing pin for some rocker, and toe articulation. Like our Blackest Night Batman, Black Lantern Superman does not come with any accessories, but we do have his collector's card with a really good graphic right here. And then on the back, we have a bit of a bio, and you can see what I mean. Kal-El, not Kal-El. So, might want to read this if you're not familiar with the Superman of Earth 2. And as always, we have our standard black figure stand. No flight stands with Superman for this one, which is kind of a shame. As a matter of fact, I don't think we have any flight stands, which they're all lanterns. They can all fly. I don't get it. And finally, we have the legs of Atrocitus, and look at the size of these legs. I can't wait to get Atrocitus together. I mean, you look at the leg compared to our Superman figure right here. Look at that. Look at the size. I can't wait to see Atrocitus. All right, next up, we're going to take a look at Deathstorm here, and I got to be honest, I was originally planning on saving him till last, because truthfully, this is the one that I was looking forward to the most. But then I thought about it, and I thought, no, we got to get all of the Black Lanterns out of the way, and then we'll look at Kyle last, and then we'll put Atrocitus together. So, let's get our boy Deathstorm here out of the box. Okay, here he is, Deathstorm out of the box. I'm putting the tape measure to him. We see that to the top of his head, he is roughly just over 7 1/4 inches tall. To the top of this flaming bit right here, he is roughly 7 7/8 inches tall. All right, bringing him up closer to the camera, we can see that this is fantastic. This is a fantastic face portrait. This is a fantastic sculpt. This black flame molded in sort of like a black purple translucent plastic. Look at the hate in the eyes. This grimacing skull face. As much as I was not a fan of his death in Identity Crisis, what they did with him in Blackest Night was awesome. Oh, I love the look of this guy. Mostly black, a little bit of silver piping, no texture to him. The suit is just pulled tight over his skin, and you can even see like muscles and decay pushing through the bodysuit here. We have that same upward V that we have for the other figures. This one's silver on black, just like Superman. Really, really stained like gunmetal gray bracer or boots down here. I really like that. His wide out shoulder pads, once again, I'm not sure if these are supposed to be turned up at different angles, but I kind of like that. This whole thing looks great. It's intimidating. It's evil. Like, this does look like something that would have just pulled itself straight out of hell, and I love it. Being a huge fan of Ghost Rider, of course I would be drawn to this one as well. I really need to get like a 7-inch Ghost Rider figure now to put next to this guy. Look at this. This is great. The teeth, the stark white teeth, as opposed to the other ones that we've seen that were like brown and rotted and yellow. These stand out because they're stark white against a gray-black skull face with these blue eyes. That's a really interesting color for the eyes, and I really like it. It just makes them stand out, and you never really think of blue as intimidating, but that is intimidating. This looks fantastic. He has one gripping hand right here that we can see, and one hand. And right here, let's see if I can focus in. Right here, there he has his Black Lantern ring. And I forgot to show that on Batman as well. If we bring Batman back over here, that he has on his right hand his Black Lantern ring as well. Superman, interestingly enough, is conspicuously without a ring, which I found that to be interesting. Because if I remember correctly, he actually went through 2 rings. He had his own, and then he died, and then Lois sacrificed herself and gave him her ring, I thought. Or wait, is that it right there? No, that's still just a knuckle. Yeah, there's no... Is that? Yeah, that's a knuckle bone coming through. There's no rings on Superman's fingers. But back to Deathstorm here. And what a name for him. What a name. He's great. I think this definitely is my favorite figure of the line. Now from the head, we have a little bit of tilt side to side, about as much as Superman. He can do that full 360 spin. He can look up. He can look down. Arms can do a full 360 spin, but these shoulder pads get in the way. They are soft, but they don't really get out of the way. So you have to put the arm out to the side. The arm will come up just past 90. He has bicep swivel. He has bicep swivel. He has a butterfly joint in the shoulder as well. He has double jointed elbows with some really good travel. He has the swivel hinge swivel wrists, so they will come in and out, and then you can do that, and you can do that, and they'll go up and down and spin all the way around. Now he does have that same ab cut in here. I know it's kind of hard to see because just how matte, how stark black everything is, but he does have that ab cut, the same as Batman, the same as Superman. His is not quite as loose, but it is still worlds better than what we've received from McFarlane before. That he can't really crunch forward. He can go back more than he can go forward. He has some side to side, and he does have that twist, although this is pretty tight on him as well, and I think it's more because of the shape of the body than anything else. But then he does have that ball joint at the waist, that the waist will also do a twist. The waist will also give you some really good side-to-side rock, and the waist will also really let you crank back and really let you crank forward. And once again, this is a soft rubber piece, this right here, so it will get out of the way whenever you're moving Deathstorm's torso around. Coming down to the legs, he has the thigh swivel right there, but it's not great. Probably on par with the Black Lantern Batman that we saw so far. His legs will come forward. His legs will go back. Double jointed knees with some really great travel. Ankle rocks back. Whoop, focus in. Ankle rocks back. Ankle rocks forward, toe articulation, and as we've seen with all of the recent McFarlane figures, and especially all the figures in this line, he has these soft rubber trunks, so when the legs come up, the rubber will just mold out of the way for him. Unlike his fellow Black Lanterns, Deathstorm does come with an accessory, and that is just this Black Lantern power battery right here. And this is cool. I mean, it's a standard power battery. It's the standard mold that we've had on some of the other Green Lantern figures when we've gotten a... Have we gotten a lantern yet? Now that I think about it. I think Parallax is coming out with one. And I think the first release of John Stewart had one. But this is just your standard power battery, molded all in silver. Just a Black Lantern lantern. And like all the McFarlane DC Multiverse figures, Deathstorm does come with his trading card, and this is a fantastic image right here. The flames bursting around him, the black energy atom forming up right here. This is a really, really good shot, and just the glow coming through the eyes, coming through the mouth. Oh, he's just gonna eat ya. And then on the back, we have his bio. And as always, we have our figure stand black circle with the DC logo tampoed on it. And the pieces for Atrocitus that we get with Deathstorm is this rubbery shoulder piece right here. And we get Atrocitus's head, and look into the eyes of a madman, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be awesome. And finally, that brings us to the Green Lantern of the Wave, Kyle Rayner himself. Now, this will be the second Green Lantern I've had, because for some reason, Todd won't release Hal other than in a 2-pack, and I don't want the 2-pack because I really don't care about Dawnbreaker. But let's get Kyle out of the box, and let's take a look at him. All right, here he is, Kyle out of the box, and putting the tape measure to him, we can see that he comes in at just a shade under 7¼ inches tall, which means he's going to be a little bit shorter than the Black Lanterns, and I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I kind of like that. All right, bringing him closer, we can see that, like the rest of the figures in the wave, he does have a very well-sculpted face portrait. He has a very well-sculpted head up here, but it's also so incredibly different than everything that we've seen so far. And at first, I wasn't really digging this smile on him. I would have liked either like a more combat look, considering he's going against the Black Lanterns, or maybe just a neutral face. But the more I think about it, when you take into account his coloring, the face sculpt, his smile, just everything about it, he is supposed to be like the, if you'll pardon the pun, the light in the darkness. He's supposed to be the antithesis to everything else that's been in this wave. He's hope, he's courage, he's everything that the Black Lanterns aren't. And having said all of that, before we get into anything else, because of how basic the sculpt of this figure is, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but because of how this is just basically a bodysuit, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a gold label figure of Kyle, but in his White Lantern guise. I could totally see that like we get a reissue of this whole figure minus the Green Lantern logo on his chest, and it's just completely whited out to represent his White Lantern incarnation. So having said that, let's take a look at the sculpt. That, like I said, it's a very basic body sculpt, but that's not necessarily bad. We have some really good muscle definition in here, and bringing it closer, we can see that, of course, we have that McFarlane texturing to the bodysuit, except for the gloves down here, and the Green Lantern logo on there. The mask is very well sculpted. It could have just been flat, but I like how it has details and depth and dimension to it. The hair, I like the bangs coming down into his eyes, and even how his eyes are sort of whited out like power eyes. I really like that. I think the head portrait, the face portrait, is very well done, and I think the rest of the body is very well done. Like I said, despite being a basic bodysuit, like we don't even have a belt or anything going on right here. The legs continue this black textured look until we get down to the boots that are very smooth, much like his gauntlets, but instead of white, these are a very bright emerald green. And that's something else I want to draw attention to, that this is a brighter green than we've had for some of the other Green Lanterns. Like John Stewart that we saw in the Endless Winter phase was more of a jade, where this is definitely more emerald right here. How, like I said, I don't have Hal. I don't have the 2-pack. I'm not sure how the coloring matches up to this, but I feel like the coloring of Hal is closer to John Stewart. And then we have an open hand that is going to be able to hold some of his accessories, and we have this clenched fist that we can see very well the ring on his finger. As a matter of fact, the Green Lantern ring stands out on the white gloves better than the Black Lantern rings do on Deathstorm and Batman. Now, taking a look at the articulation, for all of the good that we had with the Black Lanterns, I feel like this was maybe either the first figure that was made before they had like fixed a lot of the articulation issues, or just the sculpt of it for some reason gave them some trouble. I don't think the articulation is bad. I still think it's better than a lot of stuff that McFarlane has put out in the past, but compared to the rest of the Black Lanterns, you'll see what I mean when we get to it. Now, his head does have some tilt side to side. Actually has some really good tilt side to side. Can do a full 360. Doesn't really look up, which is a shame for a flying figure, but he can look down, bury the chin. His arms will do a full 360 rotation. Has a butterfly joint in the shoulder. Arms come up past 90. He has a bicep swivel. He has a bicep swivel. Double jointed elbows with some great travel to them. Swivel, pivot, turn, pivot. We know those wrists. I love the wrists that McFarlane uses. Now the ab cut right in here. Let's get rid of that Jesus pose for a second. Now he's showing off the gun. Welcome to the gun show. Okay, the ab cut that we have right in here, unfortunately, does not have much, if any, forward crunch. He can crunch back more than he can go forward, which is good for a flying figure. And he has the twist at the abs. It's a little bit tighter than the Black Lanterns, and he has some tilt side to side. Now he has the waist as well, and these trunks are rubber, so they'll get out of the way just like the other ones, that the waist can do a full spin. He can really crank back, and he can crank forward more, but not as much as the others. And he does have that ball joint, which gives him some really good side to side. So basically, the ab cut, while it's functional, doesn't give you as much range of movement as the Black Lanterns do. Now we get down to the legs right here, and we do have the hidden hip swivel, which is probably, if you look at the foot, let's focus in. It gives us the best in the line right there. The legs can come forward. The legs can come forward. Oh, focus. The legs can come forward. The legs will go back. Double jointed knees. Forward facing pin for rocker. Ankles go back. Ankles go way forward. And we have toe articulation. But something that I want to point out with these ankles, they're either really weak on mine or they don't exist, but the ankle detents aren't there. These are flowing very freely on mine, both of them. And I like that. There's still a little bit of friction so that he won't just collapse whenever you try to stand him up, but you don't have those annoying detents in there where you have to kind of snap it in between the detents to get him in a standing position. Look how easy it is to stand him up. Now, Kyle does come with some accessories, and the first one we're going to take a look at is his Green Lantern battery right here. A very unique sculpt, very different from the standard lantern that we had with Deathstorm right here. And not just because it's molded in translucent plastic, but I do like this green translucent plastic look right here. This is... Kyle always did have a different Green Lantern battery. It was after I think it was the Emerald Twilight storyline when he became the only Green Lantern, and I think they were trying to differentiate him from the other lanterns, and this was one of the ways that they did it with this very unique power battery right here. I still don't know to this day if they had always planned on bringing back the core, or if they were going to try and go with a singular Green Lantern like they did during the Golden Age and see how that worked out. To me, when I was reading it, I kind of got the impression they wanted to see if they could get away with just having one Green Lantern and not the whole core. I don't know. But back to this. So it has the handle, and it does fit into our boy's hand. His gripping hand is a little stiff, so you kind of have to work it between the thumb and the pointing finger, and there he can hold it fairly well. Whoop. Turn his hand in. There he can hold it fairly well. Now, the other accessory he comes with, also molded in a translucent plastic, is a sword. This is supposed to be his ring construct, and this is mainly... everybody's getting a sword now, either a sword or generic energy blasts, because of the limit that Warner Brothers has put on the figures with having triggered weapons. And this is a very soft rubbery piece. It's holding shape fairly well, but like a lot of the McFarlane weapons, it's very soft, it's very rubbery, until you get down to the base right here, which is really thick. And I like the sculpt. I like the mold on it. I like how it kind of has like this dual blade look to it. And it's also Horkin huge, like something he would have played with in Final Fantasy. I don't know. But this fits very easily into his grip hand, that it just slides right in there. And there, let's get the whole thing on camera. And there he's holding it. The only thing I don't like is because they made this a clenched fist with his ring, he can't carry both accessories at once. So like you can't put the sword in one hand and then the power battery in the other hand. It's either one or the other, which is kind of a shame because it would have been cool to be able to have him hold both of them. But I like the sword, and I like how the green kind of matches the green of his uniform. And of course we get our collector's card with a nice animated look of Kyle on it, and it's very interesting to me that I think that's Larfleeze back there. So I wouldn't hate it if he brought out a member of all of the lanterns, and Larfleeze is the only orange lantern. So on the back we have his bio. And of course, we have his black figure stand with the DC logo tampoed on it. And finally, the collectible piece for Atrocitus that he comes with is the torso. And just look at how huge this torso is. I can't look at that. Oh, I can't wait to do this. So let's not waste any more time and let's get Atrocitus put together. Okay, finally, here he is, the rage monster himself, Atrocitus, and I know on screen right now he probably looks to be about the same size as most of the figures of this line, but what you don't know is how far back from the camera he actually is, because putting the tape measure to him, we can see that Atrocitus, to the top of his head, stands at pretty much exactly 9 inches tall. Now, bringing him forward, first of all, we can get a really good look at this face sculpt of his, and look into the eyes of a madman, ladies and gentlemen. This is fantastic. This whole sculpt with Atrocitus, the rage lines on his forehead, the different shading, so it's not just a completely red skull face thing. These carved in fangs. Now, there's no real. Oh wait, there is depth to the mouth. I didn't even notice that there is. It is an open maw right there, and it's just all red and rage on the inside, right down to his headpiece that comes down at the chin. And oh, this looks great. This whole wave has been great with the sculpt and the face portraits and everything. And then we come down to the body, and it's our standard, I shouldn't say our standard body, but it's the standard look for like a lantern figure, where we have the coloring in this smooth plastic, and then of course the body has this texturing to it. And just like with Black Lantern Superman, you can see how the lights are getting like hundreds, thousands of like micro reflections in the texturing to like just make everything stand out. And look at the rippling muscles. Like, I don't know if you can see it, but there's even like a vein coming down this bicep right here and a cut right in there. And this looks great. This just looks great. Atrocitus is huge. He has his gauntlets right here with that red lantern patterning on it. And on this fist, we can see that he has his red lantern ring that he's just going to punch you with. We have texturing all the way down to the legs, but then look at these boots. Look at these big boots. Look at the detail. Look at the shine. That's something else that I really like. That with this and the red plastic, there's a shine to it. So we have this black that is reflecting the light, and it's a little bit, I don't want to say it's really gloss. It's kind of matte, but the reflections from all of the texturing are what gives it its little bit of shine. But then the red plastic really contrasts the standard black coming out to it. And like I said, these boots look great, coming all the way up to the knees. Atrocitus's whole build looks fantastic. Look at the muscles rippling in his back right here. Now this shoulder piece right here, this shoulder piece is the only disappointing part. And I don't even want to say disappointing, but like this is the only thing that like it doesn't stay on. Of course, it's going to make a liar out of me. At least this side doesn't stay on very well. Like, if you can see right here, there are supposed to be, like, almost, I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's supposed to be, like, pegs, maybe, in this soft rubbery plastic. And then there are some peg holes down here in his shoulders, but they don't really click into place. You kind of have to push them down in there and hope they get seated and hope for the best. And is that the left side? Yeah, the left side seats in there much better than the right side does, but both of them are kind of loose. Then I might get out the Craggle, I might get out some super glue and just glue them in place in there so they don't come out, because let's face it, I'm never going to be taking those things out anyway. Now, taking a look at his articulation, well, first of all, we saw that we have this big dumbbell joint up here at the neck, and the head just pops off very easily and sits pretty low on it, that he can do a full 360, but that shoulder cowling sort of gets in the way a little bit. He has some great head tilt side to side. He can kind of look up. See what I mean? How these just keep popping out. He can kind of look up, but he can also look down, bury the chin. The arms, when the rubber here stays in place, it will hinder the arms from doing a complete 360. Well, we've seen this before, so you would just take them out to the side and have them roll around. But for the purpose of this, I'm just going to take this off. Otherwise, it's going to keep falling off. But we can see that he does have a really good butterfly joint in the shoulder right there. His arms can come up past 90. He has a bicep swivel. He has some really good travel for double jointed elbows. His wrists will swivel and they pivot in and out, but then they can do this, and they'll go up and down. We can see that he has an ab cut right here, and he does have a twist at the ab. He can crunch forward. He can crunch way back, but then he also has the waist twist down here. Now, the waist twist is a little tight because unlike the other ones, the trunks go up inside the torso piece right here. You see how there's this scalloping, I guess you might call it, coming down on the front, that the trunks go up into the torso piece, and it makes it a little tight, but not dangerously tight that it feels like I'm going to break anything. But then also with the waist ball joint, he can crunch way back. He can crunch way forward, and he gets some really good side-to-side action going on. All right, now, whoop, pop the leg out. Now the leg does have, I got to back this up a little bit. The leg does have that hidden hip swivel, and for a character this size, it's really good. You can see that right there. The trunks, as we've already seen, are rubber, and they will get out of the way so that the leg can come up. The leg can go back, not a whole lot. As a matter of fact, yeah, that's about it right there. But then we have double jointed knees with some great travel, especially for somebody that's this big. And then forward facing pin for some rock. We have toe articulation, but then the ankles rock back and the ankles rock way forward. And once again, just like with Kyle, I don't know if it's just something with these lantern figures or if this is something that McFarlane's going to start doing, that there's really no detents in the ankles. If there are, they're very light. And I'm liking that more and more, that we just have the easy placement of the ankles so that the figure will stand on his own whenever you set him down. Now, this is the only complaint that I have, is these shoulder pieces, that they don't want to stay in place. Like I said, I'm going to glue mine in because I never expect to be taking this off. But just be aware that that is going to be a little bit of a loosey-goosey piece. Something that I really love about this figure is that not only is he big, not only is he like 9 inches tall, but he's proportioned. So he actually just looks like a much larger figure. Because a lot of times whenever you get a big fig like this or a mega fig, there's always this over-exaggerated bulk so that he's just big all around. I like that Atrocitus has this like lean, muscular build to him so that, yeah, he's tall, but he's not overly bulky. And that's just great. So I'm not going to be doing size comparisons for the entire line, but I did want to put some figures up next to Atrocitus just so you could see how big he is. So right here he is with the rest of the line, which, as you remember, all come in at roughly 7¼ inches tall. Here he is beside the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Collect to Build Frost King and the Marvel Select Thanos. Here he is beside the Hasbro Power Rangers Lightning Collection King Sphinx and the McFarlane Toys Mortal Kombat 11 Shao Kahn. Here he is beside the Marvel Select Watcher and the Mattel WWE Hurricane. And finally, here he is beside Jazzware's Spartan Collection Master Chief and Noble 6. So I really like this line, and I am actually surprised that it's taken this long to get a Blackest Night line from McFarlane, because as I said before, this line, this aesthetic, this look is right in his wheelhouse. But I'm glad that it did take him this long, because it's given him time to perfect his craft, to perfect the articulation, the sculpting work. It has given him time just to like get everything better than when he first came out with the DC Multiverse line. And I think this is a great end result for this line. I like the 3 Black Lanterns that they included. Were there more Black Lanterns that they could have included? Yes, absolutely they were. But I really like these 3. And that's not to say that he may not bring out more of the Black Lanterns further down the line. We saw it with the Eternal Winter line, where at first there were just the 4 with the Build-A-Figure for the Frost King, and then he came out with Aquaman. So it may not be unheard of that he could come out with another Black Lantern. I like Atrocitus. I really like Atrocitus. And I like Kyle being part of this line too, because they add some much needed color and diversity to the whole thing. Because if it would have just been Black Lanterns, that could have gotten a little boring. But Kyle being part of it is fantastic addition. Atrocitus is a fantastic Build-A-Figure. I cannot tell you how much I love Atrocitus. And I think it's actually one of the better collect-to-build figures that McFarlane has put out. And honestly, I feel like it's one of the better Build-A-Figures I've had across all the collections. Black Lantern Superman, Deathstorm, Black Lantern Batman, they look great. Kyle looks great. He's completely different from the other 3. As I said before, he is that ray of hope, that light in the darkest night. And he lives up to that in figure form, and I really believe we're going to be getting a White Lantern version of him at some point as well. Atrocitus is just a monster, and he's great. I have a little bit of a nitpick with the collect-to-build figures that McFarlane puts out, and that's that I wish in at least one box in the series there would actually be a collector's card for the Build-A-Figure as well. Because I don't know how many of you that collect DC Multiverse actually keep these cards, but I have them. I keep them in a binder, and I like having them. I like having them as part of the collection, and it would be really cool to be able to have some for the collect-to-build figures like Frost King, like Atrocitus here, and King Shark, for example. It would have been really cool to have those extra cards packed in. So that's my look at the Blackest Night Wave of figures from McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I know I did. And we have a lot more coming down the line. I feel like I have to start pumping things out like every other day just to get caught up with everything that I have. So until next time, my friends, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.